This week, I had the privilege to witness one of the manifest expressions of radical generosity right here in our campus. You remember when Jesus said, "Whatever you do to the least of this, you have done that to me." And we know that the least of this doesn't mean children, but children are the least of this. So, now you saw this VBS, and the whole week, the whole campus was bustling with energy. We had around 460 kids and volunteers running around this campus all day. And you see the best part of it, they're singing and they're dancing, they're having fun. Now I'll give you a behind-the-scene look from where I sit in the senior pastor's chairs. There are also things called police clearance, security features, budget. There are so many other things happening, and this time in particular, what we normally do is that we hire a VBS director just to take care of VBS. It's a paid position. We normally do that, or we have another staff extend the hours so that we cover that, because we have to have an official VBS director to make this happen. This is a big event. Even when we had full-time children's ministry pastors, even when we had full-time children's ministry directors, we used to do that. A VBS director is a position, seasonal position we hire. Now this time, we found ourselves in a very interesting place, because we are rebuilding our children's and family ministries from ground up. It is a bold decision, it's a radical decision, but I believe that it came from the Holy Spirit, so we were going at it. But we found at this time, we don't have a full-time children's ministry director, or we don't have a children's pastor. All we have was Dr. Christy Cooper, who is an interim children's ministry director coming to help us. And then we have two very part-time staff in that department. So I was thinking maybe we'll hire around 3 VBS directors this time, because I have the budget for it, because we don't have the staff, so I have the staff salary, we can do all of that. That's what I was thinking. But guess what? This is the first year, as far as I know, in my tenure, we did not hire a VBS director. And I saw the congregation rising up. And a couple of names mentioned, Val Uyeda and Laura Crichton and Terry Rottenbacher, and there are so many people, and women in particular. And our morning break and the evening break, they rose up. And they came and they owned this event in a way that even our staff, it's not just the congregation, our staff who are normally preoccupied with so many things completely decided this week we are not going to do anything other than VBS. Right from the senior pastor's office all the way to the custodial staff, we did not do anything other than VBS. So what I thought would be chaos turned out to be what we always call murmuration. You remember the word? Murmuration. So I just want to thank you again, not just the volunteers, not just the staff, but all of you, because you have demonstrated what radical generosity means. You should be proud of yourself, because you have embodied this series way too well. So thank you again from the senior pastor's office. So I'm going to do you a favor, and I'm going to close the series today, okay? I know you've been waiting for this. This is the longest running series as far as I remember. I know you're particularly not keen on this, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to close this. So this will be the last sermon in the series on radical generosity. I believe you earned it because you showed what radical generosity means to me personally in the last week. So thank you again. Would you stand with me for the reading of the word? This is actually only one verse. Maybe we can read this together. 2 Timothy 1:12. We will read this together. 2 Timothy 1:12. I know whom I have believed, and I am convinced that he is able to guard what I have entrusted to him until that day. This is the word of the Lord. You may be seated. One of my friends a while ago asked me a trick question. It was trivia. It was a trick question. This was the question. He asked, Mathew, do you know what is the largest faith-based organization in the world? What is the largest faith-based organization in the world? So I was thinking, I don't know, Vatican? Like, the whole Catholic, the center of their governance, maybe Vatican? Or is it Mecca, where all the Muslims, the Islamic world, their center of governance, that's is it Mecca? And I was thinking all of this. But then he said the right answer is New York Stock Exchange, NYSE. He happened to be a real estate broker, or I think he's an investment advisor, one of those type I have no use of. I have some friends I have no use of, but he's one of them, right? And he said, but it made me thinking, he said, the largest faith-based organization in the world is New York Stock Exchange with the 30 trillion market capitalization. He said, each time you invest in a stock, I don't have a stock, I don't have bonds, and I don't even understand some of this language, I don't have any of this, but according to him, and I'm sure this is basic math, each time you invest in a stock, whether it's an IPO or any stock of a company, you are actually taking a step of faith. You pick an organization and you look at the product they offer, the structure of that company, the board of directors, the CEO, and if and only if you have faith in them, then you will put the money on that stock, right? Because you expect a big return on investment. That's the definition of faith, right? Hebrew 11:1, I believe, it says, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, right? And the conviction of things not seen, because that's exactly what is happening in New York Stock Exchange. It is the assurance of things hoped for. It's all full of hope and faith in these companies, and they put their money on it, hoping for that return of investment. So in some way, they will be reciting this verse, I know whom I have believed. New York Exchange could say the same thing. I know, because that conviction, I know whom I have believed, that I'm convinced that he will guard what I have entrusted to him until that day of market capitalization, right? Like Paul said. So, this makes us think, this is an interesting predicament when we look at investment and giving to God. Quite often we ask, why should we really give to God? Is that God needs anything at all? And there are fundamental issues with this. When we give to charity, and we all do like to do charity, right? We all, I believe, that you have fundamental traits of humanity. We have an altruistic tendency in us that we love to give to poor people. We love to give to people who are in the lower spectrum than us. That makes sense. Because at least at that instant, you feel good about yourself, and sometimes you feel like you're God to that people. So we always do charity, which is a wonderful thing. But giving to God is just the opposite. Because when you give to God, the receiver is richer than the giver. The person you are giving to is richer than you. He is above you. So there are only two situations you give to people who are above you. First, it is an act of subjugation, right? Like back in the day, you give your taxes to the taxman, Uncle Sam, whatever that is. But going back in the days, when you give your taxes to the king, right? You give your taxes to the king because you're afraid of the king. He is above you, but you still have to give it to him. But the king gives tribute to the emperor, right? The king is afraid of the emperor, so he has to give tribute. So it's an act of subjugation. When you do charity, it makes you feel good. But when you give to God like that, when you give to somebody who's richer than that, that makes you kind of feel bad. Makes you feel inferior. That's why giving to church and religious causes quite often is a difficult thing to do. Now, another thing is that an instance where you give to a person who's richer than you is a way of investment, right? I have a friend who is very successful businessman. He has multi-million dollars asset. And he would always say, Pastor Mathew, there was a time I badly needed money and nobody would give it to me. Now I'm successful. I run many businesses. I have investment in real estate and all the other things. But now people are chasing after me. They are all saying that, can you take some money from us so that you will wisely invest for us? Right? Because people entrust. That's the word we read. I know whom I believe, and I'm convinced that he will guard what I have entrusted to him. A person who is higher than I am or richer than I am can be entrusted with this because that acts as an investment. See, giving to God is not charity, it is an investment in eternity. See, this is why, quite often people I've heard this comments, like people say, well, Pastor Mathew goes to the pulpit every Sunday, and he keeps saying that church doesn't need your money. Church doesn't need your money. So why should we give money? That's a good question. So I want to repeat, if you haven't heard me correctly, church doesn't need your money. The church doesn't need your money. But with this pipe organ, that needs your money. Right? This blowing air conditioner, that needs your money. You look at that diaper that's sitting there. I think I came to this church around 12 years ago, I believe. And I think it is sitting right there. It's not an aesthetic. It's not a decoration. It is there to protect anything that is coming or falling out from the roof. Because this building was built around 40 years ago. And we haven't done any maintenance. We haven't done any deferred maintenance. We are kicking the can for a while. Well, that needs your money. That's no church, okay? We bought this pipe organ because we love music. There are people who are driving from Santa Monica to this church on Sunday because they enjoy music. You better pay up. And all my wonderful online audience, all those cameras and all our heavy system, that costs money. That's no church. Once again, the church doesn't need your money. Because church is not a what, church is a who. The church is specifically a she, a woman. Church is the bride of Christ. Church is the bride of Christ. Do you know Priscilla Chan? Priscilla Chan is Mark Zuckerberg's wife. Okay? Anybody want to send her some grocery money? Anybody feels bad that you want to send some money to Priscilla Chan so that she can buy the dinner tonight? Anybody feels that way? If Mark Zuckerberg's wife doesn't need your money, Jesus' bride doesn't need your money either. Very, very, very clear. The moment you put money into that basket, it is your privilege. It is that you are entrusting somebody who's higher than you. You are not doing charity. You are not doing compassion. You are not helping anybody, including the pastors. I said that, yes. You know, Paul said this. Philippians 4:17. Paul said, "Not that I desire your gift." Paul is one of the best fundraisers I have ever known. He had no shame in asking for money. Paul has done a lot of fundraising. Paul said, "Not that I desire your gift. What I desire is that more be credited to your account." Paul almost talked almost as arrogant and cocky as Mathew John sometime, right? I don't need your money. I don't desire your gift. It's almost like, sometimes I feel like trust fund kids. There's a phrase called trust fund kids because they have enough money in their trust. Their parents have left enough inheritance. They don't care what you think. They don't need your money. Sometimes I feel like I'm a trust fund kid. Paul was trust fund kid. We are a little arrogant because our daddy is so rich. We have enough money in the account. That's what Paul says. I don't desire your gift. I'm not asking for this for me. But it is all because I want something to be credited to your account. Now there is an accounting term there. So interesting thing is that, when you go to heaven, many people think of heaven as this ultimate place of socialism, right? It's like all expense paid vacation package. You go to heaven and just enjoy and relax and everybody is treated equally. That's not the heaven in the Bible. People who have taken risk will be rewarded. It's textbook capitalism. That's what is in heaven. Those who don't think that you can go and just sit next to Billy Graham and just claim whatever he has. It is what you have done in this world. You will be rewarded on the other side. There is an account there. Salvation is free. Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. Salvation is free, but everything else, the reward is something you have to pay for. It's like going to Disneyland. I didn't want to go to Disneyland. I didn't have enough money to go to Disneyland. I didn't want to pay for going to Disneyland. So even after moving to California, I resisted going to Disneyland for a long time. Then somebody in this congregation gave us a free ticket to go to Disneyland. I thought, okay, finally I got to. Now I'm mad at that person because I ended up spending more money than the ticket money inside. I didn't know that was coming, right? So when you go to heaven, I don't want you to sit there and waiting for your welfare check to come. This is why God wants you to give, so that there is enough money credited into your account into heaven, because God doesn't want the welfare system in heaven to get clogged by people like us. So the more you give to God, whether it's your time or talent, your treasure, an equivalent amount will be transferred into your account. That's exactly what Paul said. Not that I desire your gift, but what is to be credited into your account. I remember I used to have a little property back in India where I came from. And it's very difficult to manage property in India. We left 24 years ago. And difficult to send money. You take a money order back in the days, send it by mail and caching problem and all that. Finally, there is a bank in India. This is a while ago. It was a big technology at the time. They came up with the idea of having dual account. And long and short of it is that you open an account here in America or Canada. The moment you open an account here, an automatic shadow account will be opened in India. It's all completely legit, okay? A shadow account will be opened in India, and you put your money here in America, an equivalent amount will be automatically credited to your account in India. So all I needed to do was to give my dad an ATM card. They will send an ATM card to my dad or whoever, I asked to, so they can immediately cash it in India the moment I put money in. So at that time, I can remember $1 was 70 Indian rupee or something like that, the money, the exchange value. So each time I put $1 here, 70 Indian rupees will be credited to that account instantly, which can be used to take care of my property in India, almost on the other side of the globe. It's almost like that accounting system. God has established this. What Paul desires is that not to give him gift, for you to give gift to the church or to the pastor, but for your own sake, invest in the heavenly account. More will be credited to your account. Let us start collecting some points, and that's exactly what Paul is talking about. Now, my friend, actually, the friend I told you before, the stockbroker, investment advisor, I believe he is. And he tried to talk me into buying some stock, invest in this. Mathew, you should take care of your family. You should not be too radical. So he gave me some tips as to how to invest in stock. So I'll give you some free advice I received from him. He said, go home and do some research on all different stock and look for three things. Three things. Security, growth, and accessibility. That's what he said. Look for a secure stock. There are a lot of phony stocks and phony IPOs coming in, the ballooned up cost and inflated cost. And finally you put your money and then you realize there was not even a company like that. There are a lot of fraud that is happening. So to make sure that your money is secure, invest in a secure company. And the second one, to make sure that this company, even though it is good, it should be growing at a consistent rate so that you will get return on investment. You know that, right? I recently heard about this guy who was a restaurant owner in Silicon Valley in the 80s and the 90s. And this guy, there are a lot of startup companies happening in Silicon Valley, particularly in the 80s and 90s, as you know. So what he would do is that people who come there for coffee or lunch, right? And they're all young people, college dropout, they're working from a garage, they don't have any money. So he give them free food, not free food. He will say, instead of paying in dollar, paying in share of your company. Right? So they will have a lunch and give 2 shares of Amazon or Apple or Google, which meant nothing at the time. Now, he is a multi-zillionaire or something like that because he had all these stocks from these young people at that time because it was growing at an exponential rate. You know what I'm talking about, that kind of a growth. And the third one is accessibility or liquidity, what do you say, right? Because you can have a lot of money. That's a problem with many people invest in real estate, which is fantastic, as you already know. But when there are a lot of people I know, they have big houses and they have everything, but their money is tied up. It's very difficult to get it because it's not liquid enough. You can get when you want it, how you want it, and things like that. So all this aspect to be considered. So you want me to do some research. So I did a lot of research to do my first stock purchase. And I researched everywhere, then finally reached the Bible, And when I go to the Bible, I always go to Mathew. Mathew was an accountant. I don't know how many of you know this. Mathew was a tax collector. He was a CPA of that time. He knows a thing or two about finance. And also, you can generally trust anybody with the name Mathew. So these are some of the things Mathew said, okay? Matthew 6:19-21. Do not lay up yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourself treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, where thieves do not break in and steal. Now that is the safest, the most secure stock I have ever seen. No moth or rust or thieves can destroy this. Store up your treasures in this stock. Matthew goes on to say in 13:18, and others fell on the good soil and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. Minimum yield on this investment is 30 times. That's the minimum. 30 times means 3,000%. That is the minimum yield of the stock Mathew is trying to sell. It can go up to 10,000% or 100 times. So growth is considered. Then again, Mathew says this famous verse, Matthew 7:7, ask, and you will receive. It is what we call a voice-activated ATM. All you need to do is just ask. You don't even have to go to the bank and put this card in. You don't even have to log in. You just ask. You will receive. So I ended up gathering all my money. I put all eggs in one basket, and I made the best investment ever. And that's why I'm standing here, because I know whom I believe, and I'm convinced that he will guard what I have entrusted to him until that day. A.W. Tozer said, anything that give to God, he said, whatever is given to Christ is immediately touched with immortality. Whatever you give to God, whatever you put in here will, at that same time, will touch the realm of eternity. It will be credited into your account. And I'm going to close this series with the picture that I showed you at the very first sermon. Lady Diana and Mother Teresa. I hope I have that picture. Yes. I want you to look at that picture one more time. See, many people look at Mother Teresa, and I said the difference between them. Lady Diana gave. Mother Teresa gave up. There is a big difference. Lady Diana represents charity and generosity. Mother Teresa represents giving to God and radical generosity. Now, Lady Diana was a compassionate person. Mother Teresa was the shrewdest investor I have ever known. Mother Teresa, you think you feel sorry for Mother Teresa? Sometimes people feel sorry for these missionaries, our missionaries. I love our missionaries, but I also know they are very smart people. They are not stupid. They are taking your money like this hedge fund owners or whatever that is, and they are investing in it. Don't feel sorry for them, because they are smart investors. They are investing in eternity. And Mother Teresa, if you can smile just like Mother Teresa, that is worth putting all the money in anywhere. That smile that comes from the very bottom of our heart. With all the money we are holding in, with everything we are hoarding, can you smile like Mother Teresa? You feel sorry for her? Don't be. Don't be. She's a shark. She's an investor. She knows where to put her money on. She is driving Ferrari in the golden streets right now. That's what she's doing. So let's go to God. I want you to know this. Going back to that verse, I know whom I believe, and I'm convinced that he will guard whatever I have entrusted to him. See, God can guard only what you have entrusted to him, okay? Now, that is a very important distinction you have to make. God is not out to protect you. That's what we all think. He can only guard what you have entrusted to him. What are you holding back? What are you not willing to put into his hands? I'm not just asking about money. Have we entrusted our career to him? Have we entrusted our children to him? See, only what is given to his hand can be guarded by him. And like that little boy story I told you a couple of weeks ago, he had 5 loaves. And some of you are still holding on to 2 or 3 loaves. which is okay because you think, at least I need to have lunch. I will share the rest of it. I'll share 2 out of my 5 loaves. No. The little boy gave all of that into God's hand because he knew, and he was not just giving to God, he was entrusting God. He was investing in the kingdom of God. He knew the moment he put that loaves into Jesus' hand, it touched the realm of eternity. It has already credited into his account in multiple times, into his account in heaven. So today, I challenge you to give everything you have, entrust everything you have into God's hand, and you will not be disappointed. This is the best stock you can invest in. Give him time, he will give you eternity. Give him wealth, he will give you treasure. Give him your life, he will give you immortality. If you believe in Jesus, you will never die because your life has already touched the realm of immortality, eternity. Would you pray with me? Father, this call to radical generosity did not come in vacuum. You first demonstrated it to us by hanging on the cross. You did not give something to us, but you gave up everything you had for us. Lord, you invested in us. What you did on the cross was not just an act of compassion and charity, it was an investment in us. Here we surrender ourselves. Multiply us. Use us for the glory of your kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen. You know, we have, thank you. I'm going to do the benediction right now. Actually, I'm going to do the benediction a little different. I'm going to let the kids do the benediction today. Their song will be the benediction. They are going to do a couple of songs, I believe. And then when you go out, there will be our community orchestra playing in the lobby. It's complete music. The day of musical, you know, the worship that's happening here. So I'm going to that to be your benediction. But since this is the end of our series, I want us to sort of renew our pledge of allegiance on radical generosity. So I'm going to ask you to stand up, and I'm going to read this so-called benediction or our pledge of the definition of radical generosity. By the way, we still have here, if you're new here at Lake Avenue Church, we would really love to get to know you, and we would love for you to fill your Connect card so that we can connect with you, and we want to walk this journey with you. And we have our prayer counselors here, and so if you need prayer, they will be standing here after the songs are done, so you can come up and they will be praying with you. Now, as you leave, let's read this pledge together. We will love others as Christ loved us. We will serve the community with a generous spirit. We will give to God with a cheerful heart. Go and live a radically generous life. God bless you.